Alright, so we're on the draw here. I'm going to keep this. It's fine hand. We have perfect mana, which is the first thing you look for with the Temur deck. Because sometimes you get weird hands where you have too many come into play tap lands, or you don't have a green on turn 1 for the attune. We potentially have green turn 1 for attune with this hand, so yeah, it's fine. So, alright, our opponent's leading off on a Spire Bluff Canal. So, hard to say, but it's most likely we're up against the mirror here. I'm not gonna attune right away because we can just attune next turn. We don't have a turn 2 play, or we'll find a time to attune basically. And so yeah, our opponent does have access to those Temur colors, and we're really not looking to draw more lands. Though we have drawn 2 lands in consecutive draw steps, so we're already a little bit flooded, to be honest. And that's why that I like playing the 2 Shelter Thickets. It looks like the opponent has them as well, just because they help mitigate the flooding a little bit. I believe that Huey Jensen's list that won Worlds did not have any Shelter Thickets in it. So I'm going to play the Aether Hub out so that gives us 3 and then up to 6 energy. So if our opponent does have a removal spell for the Whirler Virtuoso, then we'll still be able to make 2 Thopters. And yeah, trade Thopter for Thopter seems pretty straightforward here. And we'll see if our opponent has another energy creature to follow this up. Maybe another Virtuoso. Yep. So I'm not going to make a Thopter. I could, but our opponent can just make one to block anyways. So we were lucky enough to draw Rogue Refiner. So definitely going to cast that here. No real other options anyways. And there is one of those Shelter Thickets, which we're very likely to cycle. And we're going to try to wait and get this Carnage Titan into play. Hopefully our opponent is also a little bit flooded, because we're not going to win this game if our opponent just has all gas, considering our hand already up to 9 lands. But our opponent seems to be a little bit flooded as well, which is fair. So a little bit of basically energy trading, 3 energy trades for 3 energy of our opponents. There's a Bristling Hydra, which we can cast here if we want to, but we may not want to. Because our opponent could Harness Lightning in response to get rid of it, which our opponent's pretty likely to have a Harness Lightning in their hand, so that's definitely a consideration at this point. I like sending in the Rogue Refiner for an attack. Our opponent most likely will block with that Servant of the Conduit. And then I think I still like playing the Bristling Hydra. If our opponent uses a Harness Lightning, we're still getting the 3 energy. We can use it to make a Thopter. And yeah, it still seems fine. Like even if the Bristling Hydra was in play, our opponent would still have blocks on it. Looks like it's gonna be an Essence Scatter. Okay. So we got that out of our opponent's hand. And our opponent had both. Okay. Well, you know what? This is gonna be a perfect time to play this Carnage Tyrant in our hand. Because it looks like our opponent may be running out of gas. Even though we don't have much either, we do have this Carnage Tyrant, which it's pretty darn good. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get that Servant off the battlefield, is we don't want our opponent to be able to have good blocks on the Carnage Tyrant. So hopefully our opponent doesn't draw another creature here. If our opponent doesn't find another creature, they're not going to have a good way to block the Carnage Tyrant. And okay, so weird game here. Definitely very flooded. Let's go ahead and cycle. Attune, okay. Well, if we had anything at all, we would be a favorite here. Like any type of action. We don't, but still going to send in the Carnage Tyrant and hope that our opponent just bricks off as hard as we are. Which would be pretty hard to do. Our opponent could still have a card like Confiscation Coup or Harness Lightning in their hand and just not be able to cast it because we haven't played a good target for those cards. So I like using this Harness Lightning just to get one of these Virtuosos off the battlefield. It's going to change the race for us. But also, this Carnage Tyrant is just threatening a lethal attack. So it looks like our opponent is going to hold back and move to chump blocking, which is just great for us. The Carnage Tyrant is essentially taking over the game. And now we can go ahead and Harness Lightning this Virtuoso. Since our opponent only blocked with one and the Tyrant has Trample, we can go ahead, kill the Virtuoso, and then get through for lethal. So that was actually a pretty cool game because you don't normally get those draws where you flood out, but you just have that one card that is able to get the job done. So looking at our sideboard, all right. Well, I do like Carnage Tyrant a lot in the mirror. We just saw it do a ton of good work there. The Vizier of Many Faces are also for the mirror match. You can copy a Carnage Tyrant, a Bristling Hydra, anything. Plus, you can also Embalm Vizier, so it's really one of your best cards. And then we're on the draw, so I am going to be taking out my Long Tusk Cubs. I don't like them as much on the draw. I prefer them on the play just because I'd rather be able to kill my opponent's Long Tusk Cub than have my own, essentially. So I'm okay with the Chandra's defeat, an additional Magma Spray. Normally shave one Whirler Virtuoso in this matchup. And yeah, I like one Magma Spray, one Chandra's defeat here. Although, I forgot I take out one copy of Chandra. Basically, the Planeswalkers are also better on the play than on the draw. So like I'll board in the Nissas and the second Chandra if I'm on the play. On the draw, I'll just have the one Chandra. If your opponent has a Virtuoso or a Hydra in play already, the Planeswalkers tend to look a lot worse. So I'm going to go with this for game 2. And then game 3 would definitely be a different strategy, assuming that we get there, which hopefully we don't, obviously. But going to mulligan this hand. And alright, yep. Can't afford to mulligan this one. And pretty sure we have to top any land at this point. Our opponent could easily have a removal spell for our Servant, which would mean we need to get to land 4 for these Hydras. Yeah, the Supreme Will, it's kind of a cute one of. I kind of split the 2 Essence Scatters, I split them down to one Scatter and one Supreme Will. Reason being is there's more decks like Tokens in the format. that Essence Scatter is not good against, but Supreme Will is. And Supreme Will is also good against Control. It's good against the Mirror. So it costs 1 more, but it's more versatile. Alright, looks like our opponent once again has access to Warlord Virtuoso. But maybe a little bit mana tight since we saw our opponent need to tap the Servant to cast it. But I like getting the Bristling Hydra into play immediately. Our opponent doesn't have access to a card like Harness Lightning or Essence Scatter right now. And also, the Hydra will not die to a Glorybringer or a Confiscation Coup. Alright, so it looks like our opponent may have a Servant but no 4th land. And there's our own Glorybringer. Not a bad draw. So I like getting an island here. So we can pump our Bristling Hydra twice if we want to. And I think we do want to attack with it. Basically, it depends how our opponent, if our opponent wants to respect Harness Lightning or not. If we have the Harness Lightning, we could potentially blow our opponent out if they were to, say, double or triple block. And they would actually need to triple block. So it looks like they are going to take it. So that's fine. And now we have a bit of a decision. We can either cast the second Bristling Hydra or just pass the turn. I think I like casting the Hydra, even though our opponent can now resolve something like a Glorybringer. I think we want to get the second Hydra into play. The other option would be to hold up Supreme Will, but I prefer to be proactive, even though it allows our opponent to, in response, be proactive. So they do have a Glorybringer, which is pretty much to be expected there. But they also had to use 2 energy from their servants to cast it. And they really don't have a great exert with the Glorybringer either. So they could kill the servant, but that's not that attractive because we still have these 2 Bristling Hydras in play, which are really threatening to end the game in 2 turns. We're going to attack on our next turn with both of them. And then the following turn, our opponent's going to have to start making chump blocks. And we're still at a pretty healthy life total, being 19. So it looks like our opponent is not exerting. Which means, yep, we can also just play our own Glorybringer here. Or Harness Lightning. So we've got multiple good options. We could play Glorybringer and exert to get rid of the Virtuoso. That seems like a strong option. But I kind of like just going with Glorybringer next turn. So, yeah, I'm just going to get in with the 2 Bristling Hydras here. And then if our opponent does not block, I think we're fine with just dealing 8 damage. And then Harness Lightning, get the Glorybringer off the board, still have Supreme Will. But it looks like it's going to be a chump block, which is, you know, perfectly fine. And this is to play around something like a negate. I'm just going to Harness Lightning main phase. And now our opponent's pretty far behind. This Supreme Will may just close the game, depending on what it is our opponent tries to do. Alright, that's a pretty aggressive attack. Well, we're just going to take it. We can afford to fall down to 9. And now we have our opponent on the crackback pretty much no matter what. We have the counterspell. And this is just going to do it for the game. Because we have enough energy to pump our Bristling Hydra 2 times. So we have 10 plus 2. Plus we have the Glorybringer for additional power if we need it. And that's going to do it.